even wider visions. Our next featured poet is one of the cultural ambassadors for Austin, deeply respected in the international community, and here in Austin in August we were very, very happy to have poets from all over Southeast Asia come for the first Matwala Festival. She is also the founder of the Poetry Caravan, which in New York and in Austin takes poetry to hospices, AIDS centers, prisons, where people can't come up. Her new book, The Rosary of Latitudes, is poetry and prose about traveling through the world and seeing things that other people may not notice. An extraordinary poet, a wonderful asset to this community. Please welcome Usha Akella.
Thank you, Tom and Half Price Books. Very kind of you to organize this. And I think it's in the right spirit to begin with a poem by Tom for his immense work in the community for poetry. So I'd just like to start local first. And his poem is called Today Begins Like Any Other Day. Today continues unlike any other day. Our street is scarred with broken bodies of fireworks. Our cat still clings to the insides of cupboards. Please do not wave flags near dogs, no PTSD sufferers. They sleep off soporific war movie television sedations. Beer and barbecue have found their way to sewage and snores. Undeclared the war on rationality, families, sanity, communities. Cut funds for culture, more for wars. When wounded warriors return, they must learn to negotiate with the broken VA. My cat still shakes and needs reassurance. We will not explode around her. We are all survivors, some of domestic wars and abuse, more of wars foreign and domestic upon all of us. Well, that's Tom for you. And another local poet, a wonderfully respected L.Z. Cogswell, whom we all know, who's worked for decades in so many ways. And this is from his book called Love Songs for Hyde Park. And the poem is called Flying Animals. Bird flight is no simple thing. We measure the distance between a hummingbird and a swan in terms through which a mind may travel, but birds only flit, never seeing the perch. Compare magic with magic. Put a toucan beside a sparrow. A butterfly hangs limpid in the air, yet no more hapless upon freshets than the wrist of a woman who wants attention. I could speak of beauty here, or in the same breath engineering. The idea of an animal who flies implies only madness. So that's LZ for you. And I'm going to jump to Israel, and in some sense I think this poem is the signature poem of my book. And we know the politics in the Middle East have kind of driven the politics of the world for a good many centuries. And the poem is simply titled Jerusalem. Jerusalem, shall I dare say your tales with this foreign tongue as I spin like a top in your streets? Shall I enter your gates as you lie under the fingertips of a golden menorah? What badge shall I show your armed men keeping peace when I listen to a mother calling for her children in fields of invisible ears and tongueless tongues, and old walls tremble with secrets, flags, and burdens, and time the deathless watchman prowls your streets, when the mint in your tea refreshes my tongue, and bread fills my stomach, and I walk the walk of Via Dolorosa on the palm of the city, pointing different directions, with more than one minotaur at its center, when I climb Mount Olives and see dead men waiting like chocolates in boxes to be opened, when I see the patience and the impatience of waiting, and prophets' names too many to remember cast shadows on your streets, shall I ask for permission to enter? Shall I dare stand by a wall, join lines of people in eternal mourning? Yearning, shall I join my grief to theirs and ask for temples to be built? Idol of idols, how shall I gain entry? You, the navel of this earth, where people rooted to salt, faith, loyalty 3 times over, like 3 rivers flowing separately between your messianic apocalyptic banks. What message can I bring as balm for your wounds? All messages are known to you. They are coded in your stones in the cursive of prophets. City of walls, stone, earth, restoration, air, light, sky, blood, hope, tears, wail, lament. City of streets wagging many languages, where past, present, future coexist as solemn triplets. Shall I dare change the cartography of religion, stand under a golden dome, and let fly a new litany longing to be rewritten? The next one is also inspired by Jerusalem, and it's called Gethsemane. And those of you, you're probably familiar with the Garden of Gethsemane. It's where Christ spent the night before his crucifixion the next morning. And it was a very agonizing night. It didn't come easy to do what he had to do, and it took him a whole night to come to terms with the will of God. And then he went, and the crucifixion took place the next morning. What was so beautiful about Gethsemane, and also very, very haunting, were the olive trees. And I went to Jerusalem about 2 years ago, and the olive trees are apparently and obviously hundreds of years old, and every one of them is very tortured, very gnarled, very broken in a very painful kind of a way. So the olive trees became my doorway into going into Gethsemane. It's simply called Gethsemane, and so I'm addressing the olive trees in the poem. Then young and supple, learning to breathe from the air as a calf drinks from its mother, their many ears were innocent and tender, unfurling to the wind's secrets, unaware of an imminent eavesdropping, of a sacred covenant between God and the one to become the Son of God. One night was enough to curl the sap and shrivel the eager rush of life. Bearing witness to suffering is harder than suffering. This the gnarled testimonial of the olive trees. Death released its odors. The angels gathered weeping. The moon grew pale. The sky whitened like a shroud. Shadows approached as wolves. When he rose still as a compass at rest, the world withered in shame. The sun fearfully knocked its goblet of light. It streamed reluctantly that morning, afraid of its contents. And the olive trees wept tears of blood, loyal, unfled disciples. And I'm going to come back home to Jason's Deli in Austin. There is the big soup like a newfound galaxy, color swirls, steam, flashes of white and red in seafood gumbo, vegetarian vegetable, tomato, basil. Mostly all else is cold, whistles of carrots, tongues of salmon on wheat and rye, dismembered tree limbs of meats. The menu boasts of po' boys, ranchero wraps, spudder brock, tuna pen pasta, honey mustard coleslaw, and behind glass the corpses of cheese rotting their flavors like a haunting. This monstrous food on display could feed Ethiopia in one day. Meanwhile, my tongue is dwelling on the spitting spices of samosa, chaat, batata vadas, idlis soft as a mother's breast. My fingers stained with dark tamarind juice in arms with mint and coriander, the yogurt and onion garnish on sizzling palms slathered with butter. 13 years I'm still digesting America, while wondering if plump brinjals are being singed in oil, and Dad, satiated on Hinduism, is assuring his place in heaven by writing a crore times the name Rama. I'm going to, this is a villanelle, and I'm wondering, should I do this one? Yes, this was written for my grandmother. I lost her 2 years ago, and I was there for the cremation. I actually went to the cremation ground, and she was cremated the evening, and the next morning all that was left was the ash. And I was there with my father. I didn't want him to go in there alone, so I went in with him, and so this poem is from that. It's called The 14th Day. Here was the head, here the heart, the hip, the heel. With flaming swords in easy battle the fire leaps. She moves on lighter now, and others left to feel. The air steals the breath, the earth the body, the soul who steals. No matter the sowing, there's only one final breath to reap. Here was the head, here the heart, the hip, the heel. Streams of mantras from pious mouths and unflagging zeal. Rows of pots and colored cloth with bellies of ash heap. She moves on lighter now, and others left to feel. The envelope of life is closed, stamped and sealed. Is she near and awake, or far in a realm beyond sleep? Here the head, here the heart, the hip, the heel. Around the cow, the fire, the pyre, the head reels, around in circles, and the head baths to cleanse grief, trench deep. She moves on lighter now, and the living are doomed to feel. Numbed by 13 days of feasts and meals, still the living cannot rent the veil and peep. Here the head, here the heart, the hip, the heel. She's gone, and grieving hearts must heal. This one is called, just tell me when to stop, Tom. Okay. I want to read, is Debangana here? Okay. Debangana's from Calcutta, and I have a few Calcutta poems, so these are in her special honor. And I'm going to start with a poem to Calcutta women, and you'll know what I mean after you hear it and you look at Debangana. So it's called Women of Calcutta. When looking about for a model, Kali cast herself in their image. Slant those eyes, she told herself, for truth is slant, and slash that forehead with red, to never forget you are woman's fury. Swell at the hips to mark the earth as your domain, and the hair is unending night in your awakening. Skin sleek as fish oil charts dreams as your territory. Build your testimony from that bold gate. Mermaids of fire, these Kolkata streets are your battlefield, and daily the men fall, fall, fall. I have one, okay. Sorry. This is a tribute to Dakshineshwar, which is an ancient Kali temple in Calcutta. And it's called Ferrying on the Ganga Alone. Making pilgrimage, I fell in love with Calcutta on its waters. It was the moment I was perfectly at peace with aloneness and loneliness and all its intermediate variations. I became nameless on these waters, sliding around the boat, dusty grey silken threads intertwining, a carpet coming undone, rammed with people and smells of bodies close to each other. I was senselessly happy. The litter bobbed by, dried marigolds and weed. On the bank drifted edifices of faith, Belur, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, the mother. Wordless chants hummed within. Perhaps it was only breath paying homage to breath. The temple of Dakshineshwar's rippled cream and red domes, the goddess pointing mehendi-stained palms inward. At the end of the journey, the skeleton of a goddess, an angled straw body, so simple a corpse, so naked a reality, it was matter of fact. The boat emptied its mind of us. I knew Calcutta would call me again and again. Sitting on the back steps, truly alone, I sipped garam chai, the sun a vermilion dot on an eternal forehead. This one is from Slovenia. It's called Cathedral. I sat on the steps of a cathedral once, the stone more real in the moonlight. I don't remember the name of this town. It was a crevice in Slovenia, far from the vine-chalked valley of Medana, where a fistful of poets had been inebriated and carefree. There were voices in the air, lovers, random passers-by. Other poets lurked in the gullets of streets. No one asked why I sat there. I was accepted as a stone or a shadow natural to the city. A couple came close, they took photos of each other, and I watched impassively. The steeple rose, a reassurance to the sky that it must be met, and I on the steps below, offering no assurances to the earth, for the earth needs no assurances. It takes what it does unerringly. By day, confident litanies resonate between those walls. By night, they flow outward, a dark silence like a river escaping from the sea. Everything was bleached in the moonlight, my mind bleached of burdens. Maybe it was the embrace of the stone around me. Its coldness was truth. In a foreign land, there are no knots of failed relationships, the gnawing unease of families as spider webs to which we belong, knowing not who is the weaver, but knowing we are caught. I think I'll probably end with an excerpt from a poem called Love is Fertile, Love is Fallen Leaves, and then the last poem is The Rosary of Latitudes, which is the title of the book too. So this is just the first excerpt from Love is Fertile, Love is Fallen Leaves. And again, I was going back to India to meet my grandmother who'd broken her hip. The night opened an eyelid and looked at us, an ancient monster viewing its citizens. In this night, love yawned, covered her mouth, yawned again. The car turned as a key in the streets of night. Dawn lay on the other side. Morning was the room beyond. There are many suns and many sunrises. In the horizon there are many dancing suns, one for each of us on earth. In this night there was the smell of eternal garbage and slumbering dreams. The moon had the look of a dog slinking away with a cowardly tail. We awakened from one dream in mid-air to one on earth. In Hyderabad, parents wait for their children to come, wait eternally, the knit and pearl of arrival and departure, clicking, clicking, clicking in their minds. And hours here are like gardens with mirrors in which people come and go and sow memories that sprout like entangled weeds covering ground. The gates open like the covers of a book. The house waits as an hourglass. The plot all too familiar. Love is taken for granted, stoic. The offer of coffees, teas under smothered sleep, set unaltered routines, no pleases and thank yous, no excesses of banal commonalities, no hallmark realities. I could not have sat still. A neem leaf, however bitter, belongs to the neem tree. Fingers curl back to a palm, wings lies close to our body. Do not come, she said, listen to me. Do not come, do not trouble yourself to come. The trip was long, there were miles and midnight meals. There was the Atlantic, the endless sky, boarding passes, security checks, scrutinies, scans, aching arms, luggage, tired, capture of empty seats, and strained sleep in fetal positions. There was gold in Qatar in the duty-free shops, cosmetics, chocolates, watches, perfumes, crystals, and Arabs, inconvenient restroom stops with carry-ons and child, the jumble of time, census, meals, the matrices. We are coming, I said, we are coming. In the hospital, the ayahs wore red like the spittle of goddess Kali, squatting in corridors, belching, squelching, clanging bedpans and curses. Bedclothes hung from railings in her room. No family feud ceased. Weddings were fixed. Visitors sang their poems, a scene from Pandemonium. She so old that desires were like torn kites, wishing for her death that did not come, with the broken hip, grandkids and American accents, foot diving for blessings. The doctor, old patriarch, like an aged bulldog, took his readings. Aunts hobbled in and out, my father's earnest manner belying incomprehension. She sat up in bed, skin sad parchment, white hair, petals soft like a lily rising out of the earth. In her eyes, pale milk of a faded motherhood, her palm like withered autumn leaves. She held me as she would a newborn. What crawls in her blood crawls in mine. This blood, the sentence it pronounces, the last life light in which to see myself. And the last one, I ended up reading the whole poem, so I'll make this one very short. It's called Two Poets in a Car. Black tongue of the road flicking from the moving mouth of the car. Above, circles of crosses, birds of prey. Poets, we are eaten and eat everything.
From Calcutta to Jason's Deli, the Rosary of Latitudes. The book is on the table. Please buy 5 copies. And